The Galactic Council's annual award ceremony had always been a prestigious affair, attended by representatives from over 3,000 civilized worlds. This year, however, the atmosphere in the crystalline amphitheater of Zephyria Prime carried an unusual tension. Ambassador Kethvar of the Andromedian Federation nervously adjusted his ceremonial robes as he approached the podium, the announcement scroll trembling slightly in his six-fingered grasp. Distinguished delegates, his voice resonated through the universal translators. We gather today to present the 2387th Annual Galactic Awards for Planetary Achievement. The usual polite applause rippled through the assembled crowd, but it felt muted, almost reluctant. Categories had been announced throughout the evening. Most peaceful civilization went to the meditation monks of Serenity the Seventh, greatest technological advancement to the quantum architects of New Titan, and most beautiful biosphere to the crystal gardens of Lumina. Each award was met with the expected celebration and diplomatic congratulations. But now came the final category, one that had been established only 50 years ago, after humanity's first contact with the galactic community. The Most Frightening Planet Award had initially been created as a way to acknowledge worlds that posed significant navigational hazards or contained dangerous phenomena that spacefaring civilizations should avoid. And the winner of this year's Most Frightening Planet Award, Kethvar paused, his throat sac inflating with nervous energy, for the 15th consecutive year, Earth Sol System Orion Arm. The silence that followed was deafening. No applause this time, only the uncomfortable shuffling of various appendages and the occasional worried chittering from the insectoid delegates. From the human section, Ambassador Sarah Chen rose gracefully, her simple black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate costumes surrounding her. She was a small woman by human standards, barely reaching the shoulder height of most other species present, yet somehow her presence commanded attention as she walked to the podium. "Thank you," she said simply, accepting the obsidian trophy shaped like a warning beacon. "We're honored." The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. Humans had been part of the galactic community for barely a century, yet they had managed to earn this particular distinction with remarkable consistency. It hadn't started that way, of course. When the exploration vessel New Horizons had first made contact with the Centauri Trade Federation in 2291, humanity had been welcomed with the usual mixture of curiosity and caution reserved for new species. The standard planetary evaluation had been conducted, atmospheric readings taken, biological samples analyzed. Everything had seemed relatively normal for a Class M world with a developing civilization. Then the reports started coming in. Dr. Vextai, the Rigelian xenobiologist assigned to Earth's initial assessment, had been the first to raise concerns. His report, now legendary in xenological circles, had begun with what seemed like routine observations. Species demonstrates typical carbon-based development patterns. Reasonable intelligence quotient. Standard bipedal configuration with minor anatomical variations. But as the report continued, the tone shifted dramatically. Subject planet exhibits extreme environmental volatility. Weather patterns include rotating atmospheric disturbances capable of destroying infrastructure, electrical storms of unprecedented intensity, and temperature fluctuations spanning over 100 degrees Celsius annually. Additionally, the planet's surface consists of mobile tectonic plates that regularly shift, causing violent seismic events. That was just the beginning. The geological survey revealed that Earth sat in a cosmic shooting gallery, regularly bombarded by asteroids and comets. The magnetic field fluctuated unpredictably. The single moon was disproportionately large, creating massive tidal forces that would crush most other species. But the truly alarming discoveries came when they studied the planet's biology. Dr. Vextai's second report had been considerably more urgent. The dominant species has somehow evolved on a world that appears actively hostile to life. Virtually every ecosystem contains numerous organisms capable of killing the inhabitants through various means: venom, physical trauma, parasitic infection, or toxicity. The humans have adapted to coexist with predators that would be classified as weapons of mass destruction on most worlds. The galactic community had initially assumed this was an exaggeration until the first cultural exchange programs began. The Andromedan delegates who visited Earth lasted exactly 4 days before requesting emergency evacuation after encountering what humans casually referred to as a small garden snake. The snake in question produced enough neurotoxin to kill an adult Andromedan in under 30 seconds, Ambassador. Chen smiled slightly as she remembered those early days. The real shock had come when other species began to understand not just what humans had survived, but how they had responded to their hostile environment. Rather than becoming a cowering defensive species, humanity had embraced the danger. They had developed something the galaxy had rarely seen, an aggressive curiosity coupled with an almost supernatural adaptability. Humans didn't just survive their death world, they thrived on it. They climbed mountains that would crush most species under atmospheric pressure. They dove to ocean depths that would implode reinforced spacecraft hulls. They developed sports that involved deliberately placing themselves in mortal danger for entertainment. When the Zephyrian Empire had attempted to establish a protective zone around Earth for the safety of galactic commerce, humanity's response had been swift and unambiguous. Within 6 months, human exploration vessels had not only reached Zephyrian space but had established a research station on the edge of their most forbidden territory, a neutron star system that no Zephyrian had dared approach for millennia. "We came in peace," the human commander had transmitted, "but we noticed you had some interesting physics going on over here. Mind if we take a look?" The message that followed from the Zephyrian High Command would later become required reading in diplomatic courses across the galaxy. Suggestion to maintain protective zone around human space has been withdrawn. Recommend all species exercise extreme caution when interacting with humans. They appear to consider lethal danger a form of entertainment. Now, 15 years later, Earth held the Most Frightening Planet award, not because it was hostile to life, but because it had produced a species that seemed genuinely incapable of recognizing normal danger responses. Humans had colonized worlds that other species considered uninhabitable. They had established research stations and systems where the background radiation would sterilize most forms of life. They had volunteered for first contact missions with species so dangerous that previous encounters had required entire star systems to be quarantined. As Ambassador Chen returned to her seat, she caught the eye of the Rigelian delegate who had authored the original assessment of Earth. Dr. Vextai's descendant, Dr. Kextai offered what might charitably be called a smile, though it looked more like a grimace of resigned terror. "Congratulations on another well-deserved victory," he transmitted privately. Chen nodded graciously. "Thank you. Same time next year?" The Rigelian's response was immediate. "We wouldn't dare give it to anyone else." As the ceremony concluded and delegates began filing out, the conversations were already beginning. Plans for next year's award categories were being discussed, and several species had quietly suggested adding a new distinction, most likely to survive contact with humans. It was, they agreed, a category that would likely remain uncontested for the foreseeable future. Outside the amphitheater, Ambassador Chen paused to look up at the alien stars, her trophy reflecting the strange light of Zephiria's twin suns. Somewhere among those distant points of light, human explorers were probably discovering new ways to worry the galaxy's more sensible civilizations. She smiled and headed for her ship, already composing her report for Earth. Mission accomplished. Fear levels maintained. Recommend continuing current exploration protocols. After all, they had a reputation to maintain.